Hey, what's up, guys? David Huffaker here with Dana Hutton. We're back for another week of the real estate update of what's going on in Wilson County and around the country, bringing you real estate news that helps you be a more informed buyer, seller, or investor. What's up, Dana? How are you?
I'm good, David. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So we just got back from Atlanta, Georgia. We were at Keller Williams family reunion and had a chance to hear nationally some of the stats, kind of a summary of 2025, what we saw, what the final numbers are coming in as far as national news, and then also kind of some of the predictions of 2026. So if you're into knowing about what's going on at the KW family reunion, the state of the industry from Gary Keller and Top Mind, stick around. We're going to bring you some information there that'll help you be more informed, whether you're an agent, buyer, seller, locally or nationally. So all right, Dana, let's hop in. What was one of your
Yeah,
takeaways from family reunion?
that the market really isn't as bad as the media presents itself.
Isn't that funny? The interesting thing is the market actually probably is as bad as the media is presenting it, but the nuance to it really being the pricing of what's going on in the market actually changes. It's a huge variable. And so let me ask this: when you think of a good or bad market, what perspective do you look at that at? Do you look at that in terms of being an agent, and so is the market good or bad for business? Do you look at it in terms of a seller, like whether they can move, or in terms of a buyer, whether they can buy? What's your perspective when you say media portrays it as bad? What do you mean by that?
Well, and I say that, and again, this was a reflection of 2025 versus future prediction, right? And I would say I probably look at it. I hate to always sound, like, oh, I look at it all, but I would say that that is the case, right? How fast as a listing agent, is my inventory moving, right? Are there any multiple offer situations, days on market, inventory as a whole? And then as a seller and buyer, right? We've always said, go ahead and, buy the house, right? Buy the dirt. There really is no bad time to sell or to buy because what most people don't understand, oh, I'm going to wait for rates to go down. Well, when rates go down, right, we're going to have this influx of inventory, right? There's more demand, so price is going to go up, right? So you might be trying to, buy at the right rate, but then yes, your maybe the price of your home if you're selling and buying at the same time, that will go up, but inevitably you're still paying more for that next house. It's not,
Yeah, so
so
one of the key takeaways there is um, there is no wrong time to buy real estate. I think it really depends upon the terms that you're getting. So if you're waiting on the market, that's a global stat, right, or a macro stat, right? You're waiting on the market to do something versus the micro terms of every deal. We're seeing our buyers and sellers really win. I think depending on how you're looking at how the media is interpreting it, we can look at it number one as agents and go, well, is the market good enough for us to make a living transparently, right? As doing this at full time for a couple of decades, is the market in a place where we can make a reasonable living without too much of a headache? And that's probably bottom of the list of what we're looking at. When we're looking at the market, good or bad, can sellers sell at a price that is reasonable for them? And let's be honest, I had this conversation with some clients a few years ago, and they said, "But David, I've got a couple of $100,000 in equity in my home. I don't want to take any less for it." And I kind of said, "Well, tell me how many days did you get up and go to the office and work for that equity? Right? How much
that's
energy
great.
did you put in? Now you might have remodeled the house, you might have done some things, but the rise of the market, especially if you owned a home in 21 or 22, that was a gift, right? And that was an amazing economical gift of inflation and COVID and all these things. So sellers right now can sell, and that's where the real difference between now and the Great Recession is. When the Great Recession, a lot of these sellers had $0 equity in their home, right? Versus now, what is it like? The average homeowner has like 60% loan to value, right? Massive amounts of equity in our home. One out of three homes is owned in cash. And so I think you think of it like that. Now the question is like as a buyer, and that's where I think most of the media gets it. If I'm a buyer in this market, it's really expensive to buy a home, especially if I've never bought one. If I don't have the equity in my home to put down on the next one, affordability is the biggest challenge of our industry right now, or of the entire real estate market, right? So what did you hear at Family Reunion? When you think about affordability, you got prices are high, interest rates starting to come down, but relatively perspective, right? They're high if you've only paid attention to them in the last 5 years. But what about a 6% interest rate, Dana? What is the national average over the last 30 years, you think?
I mean, it's I think it was right around 7%, wasn't it?
Yeah, between 6 and 7%, and that's where I go. Like 6% is actually a really healthy interest rate historically, right? So I know I want to pull up some slides. I know I want to go through this quickly in the interest of time. But interestingly enough, if you're an agent, the number last year, somewhere between 3.8 and 4.1, 3.9, 4.1 million sides done in real estate. Yeah, worst real estate market from that perspective since 2008, 2009. Right. And so you're like, right, like, okay, it felt like it in some regards. That's the pace at which homes sell. But that's a unit count. And I don't know about you, but if I'm a seller, I only sell one house regardless of the market.
Right.
So overall, if I'm a consumer, does that unit count really matter to me? The beautiful thing, though, is as a volume standpoint, it was the third best market ever.
And that's what matters, right? Money in our back pocket. So
Yeah.
volume is what matters. So
Yeah.
even if I sold 5 homes, but those 5 homes were, $3 million, each,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent year.
Yeah, when I got into real estate, the average price of a home was less than $200,000, and so I had to sell two and a half of those back then to equal what it is to sell one of those now. So I
Right.
think if you're a buyer or seller, perception matters. And again, we're talking a couple of decades here. Let's share some of these slides and let's kind of talk through them, guys. We don't
Do
have
it.
the 2020 February 2026 slides yet. We're going to use some older slides from November and kind of talk you through the changes that we saw, and then hopefully soon we'll have those actual slides and can be able to do that. And so let's see if the technology will let me share
This
this,
is a
Dana.
test, David. There it goes.
All right, tell me how good I'm doing here when we kind
Good
of come
job. Good
into
job.
the overall market. So again, these numbers are from the Keller Williams State of the Industry, November 2025, and we're going to go through. There's a bunch of. We're not going to go through all of the ones that really matter here, right? And so again, you kind of look at the main impact on the market, right? Unemployment, inflation, and GDP. As we kind of look through that, this is the first time the slides we saw in February where job openings and job demand kind of flipped, and so you now see more unemployed people than job openings, and that's probably a little bit of concern that we want to keep our eye on. But again, when people are saying like we hope for a market crash, understand you're hoping for high inflation and high unemployment and a horrible economy. So be careful on what you're wishing for, right? You need to be able to get a house at a
Yeah.
reasonable price.
Grass isn't always greener on the
Yeah,
other
but
side,
half your
right?
neighbors are going to be without a job, and your family's going to have some real pain points in that. So let's be
Yeah.
careful what we're hoping for there. Some of the things here, annual GDP, we kind of saw did retract some in 25 again, and then inflation kind of bumping around. You kind of see the projection for 2025 was around 2.8, 2.9. Again, kind of probably the same stats that we saw. Consumer sentiment, again, becoming a real issue, right? It's the lowest. But Danny, you were talking about it, right? We talk about don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Talk me
Correct.
through what your clients are seeing out there right now. If they're buying and selling, are they crazy? Are they just going against all odds, or are they actually in a point in life where they need to make a move and the math can make sense for them?
Yeah, I think the math always has to make sense. But then, the reasons why people move, we've talked about, that on here before. We have, growing families or maybe families, more right sizing, downsizing, relocation. We see a lot of divorce and that type of thing. So there are motivating reasons that people have to make a move. And I have recognized at certain price thresholds, it doesn't become as big of an issue, right? As well as like first time home buyers. I mean, I just had a first time home buyer buy their first home in, their early 30s for $820,000 this
I
week.
love that.
Gotta love it, and great for them. Even the ones that first time home buyers at a $325,000 price
Yeah.
threshold. And they're just so excited to be able to pay towards their equity, right? And their home versus paying somebody else's mortgage. And I think that's the way we have to look at it.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, I'm trying to find the slide here. Yeah, so this slide right here, right? I think when we think about, and the numbers have actually improved when we saw them
Yeah.
in February, but the thing we have to think about is prices go up and to the right. If it's the stock market, if it's home prices, whatever that is. So does it feel really expensive? Of course. Did a $40,000 home back in the 1950s feel really expensive? Of course, right? Buying a home when you first buy it feels really expensive, but look at where this graph goes. Dana, can you tell me in here how many times since 1990 have home prices gone down? Let's see it here
Yeah,
in
just
maybe '07, pretty
yeah,
flat '06 to '07. So prices
yeah,
went down '07 to '08,
yeah,
'08 to 2009, and then maybe took a little bit of a dip from 10 to 11. So 3
Then it
years
just,
in the last 35 years, prices have gone down.
right,
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've been doing this 2 decades, and this was an aha for me after 2 decades of looking at this to go, in my mind, real estate prices always go up and down. But
right.
that's not true, is it? I mean,
Mhm.
mathematically, when I look at this, I go, that's actually not true. Prices have actually only gone down 3 times. So this thought that like there's going to be this big market crash, you kind of back up and go, all right, now, did we probably experience one in the late 80s? Maybe, right? There was some stuff going on with that. So I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but you think about like less than 10% of the time. So 1 out of 10 years in the last 35 years. That just because I'm shocked when I'm shocked, and I love that. It's just fascinating to me that even as a realtor, I hear the media talking about it, and I hear all the TikToks and the experts, right? It's not actually true, guys. I mean, I think
No,
if you're talking about what is going to happen to prices and where are we at and where do we go over time, if you own real estate long enough. Let me ask you this, Dana, because I've heard Jason and Gary talk about this. In 2006, the average home was $222,000. It looks at the time it was the most expensive ever. And it would have taken you until 2015. It would have taken you 9 years to get back to it. How many pieces of real estate now that we're at about 408, 418,000? How many pieces of real estate do you wish you would have bought in
a lot,
2006?
a lot.
Right? And you go like, well, how can that be? That's fascinating because I wish I would have bought every single piece of property on planet Earth in 2006, which sounds crazy. And yes, it would have taken me 9 years if I'd have bought it then to recoup my money. But you fast forward and you look at 21 years later,
Mhm.
19 years later, I mean, I would have nearly doubled my money. And so you just
Right.
look at that and you go, like, that's fascinating to me, right? Above the trend line, guys, we actually ended up over about 7.4% above the trend line. You figure natural appreciation on real estate is about 4%. We're going to probably move at a pace, guessing somewhere around 2% for the next year to two. So we're going to recapture back another 4%. So fast forward 24 months from now, Dana, the trend line is going to be somewhere about only 3% above the historical average. So when I go like, is real estate expensive? Of course, guys, it is expensive in perspective, but it's actually no different than anything else, right? When it comes down to it. Now you could argue the cost of a home as a percentage of overall income. And yes, I think, Dana, if we only look at the last 5 years, you're always going to have a really strong argument for that. But thankfully, we buy real estate for lifetimes, for generations, not for 3-5 year periods. So I think that really matters. What was your takeaway from some of these slides?
I mean, I thought it was eye-opening that, I mean, really not much has changed year to year either. I mean, we're still seeing, sales moving. And yeah, I mean, home sales, I think we're slightly down, but of course, volume's up. And so that again, for each individual consumer, that means more money in their back pocket.
Yeah, and I go back to what you're saying here, right? Like home sales overall, I think 25 with the updated slides. The updated slide said 4.1. I think could be argued it was 4, maybe 3.9. You're almost experiencing a little bit of what you saw here in '09 to 10, where it kind of went 4.1 up to 4.3, back down to 4.2. But the takeaway here, guys, if I go back and look at '08, '09, 2010, 2011, how many years was that? So it was 4 years.
Hmm.
4 years, I went from 4.1 in '08 to 4.7 in 2012. I go back to the early 90s and I go, okay, I had 89, I had 90, 91, 92, kind of bumping along. Now from a 3.1 to a 3.7. So back over here in 2008, a 4.1 to a 4.7, right? And so as I kind of go through this and I go, right, now we're at a 4.1, you tend to see these cycles reset in about 4 year periods, right?
Right.
And we're starting to see that unlock with some of the conversations the government's having around ways to assist the housing industry, ways to move permitting through. I think if we go in through here and find like home start, yeah, so home starts here when you look at like new home starts annually, and we go back to like why is it important that our local municipalities find ways to move permitting faster? Right now, it's taking almost 2 years to get a piece of dirt from conception to shovel. Okay, that's too long. I mean, think about the carrying cost. If I buy a piece of land today for $100,000 and I finance a portion of that, I have carrying costs every month, or even if I pay cash for it, that $100,000 is sitting dead. for 2 years that it could be making, let's call it a 10 or 12% return just in a general market investment. So I'm losing out on quite a bit of money there, Dana, right? And we go
Yeah.
back and we look at the lull from 2008 all the way to 2020 of how many years? That's 12 years of underbuilding. And so when you look at like supply and demand and where prices are, what does that mean, Dana? I mean, we have really low supply because builders aren't building new homes and families are making more babies. And so you
Mm-hmm.
go like, all right, we're undersupplied
Right.
and an
So
increase
demand's
in
high.
demand. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens?
Yep. Prices go up.
Yeah, prices go up, guys. And so there's no shot, there's no like, this isn't going to sneak up on us unless you can go back, right? What do we look at birth rates 33 years ago? If the average home buyer is 33 years, right? I'm pretty sure people were making babies 33 years ago, right? And
Yep.
and and you can actually go back and look at the chart and recognize that actually birth rates were increasing during that time. And so, guys, our government getting involved in helping push new initiatives that help move these, they're going to start penalizing municipalities that are slowing things down too much. They're going to start incentivizing them to get these things through quicker. And right now, they're having some conversations around modular homes, Dana, about how those can be governed better, but also become more of an asset where they're actually usable. I don't know what that looks like. That's people smarter
Yeah.
than me. But I find that fascinating that you see this kind of reset in 4-year cycles. And then all of a sudden you go like, okay. And so we come back to inventory. Dana, what else in here in the slides do you think we should be looking at?
Well, we looked at inventory. We looked at units per sale. We've looked at the job, unemployment. I mean, affordability we've discussed.
I think this is the real concern for everybody, right? And that's where it does. We've got to find some solutions there. But again, time will solve this for us.
Right.
Wages increase faster than home appreciation, so it feels more affordable. Now, the other piece is as interest rates start to come down, right? Today, we got interest rates back under 6. Guys, that is a huge psychological break when it comes to buying and selling, and so it's happening right at the beginning of a spring selling season. So you should see pretty good activity. If you're thinking about putting your home on the market, guys, if you're thinking about getting in, probably the best time to do it in the last, what did we just say? I mean, the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where my slides went. I know I'm all over the place here.
That makes
So when you
me
think about it,
busy.
like, I know. I was thinking about in the last 4 years, as far as like where we're at with that. Yeah, there we go. So you go like all of a sudden rates are below 6%. We saw a little bit of dip earlier this year, and we saw a huge influx of buyers into the market. And so you think about like, is the market prone for a rebound as we have rates starting to loosen up and getting below 6? Someone said they got an FHA right now at 5.5 with no points. So a couple of other things you're looking at. Affordability is getting better. And so, Dana, what are you seeing here in the local market? I know you're one of the top listing agents, the number one listing agent in Wilson County, Tennessee, and one of the top ones in Tennessee. What are your sellers seeing? What are conversations y'all having at the kitchen table?
I mean, we are, we got to price it right, price it smart with the market. We are selling homes at a faster pace in terms of days on market and the average age out there. I think, Nashville, greater Nashville is sitting at about 60. We're sitting at about 41 days or sometimes sooner, right? National average, if homes are priced right, the marketing's great. I think they said 50% of homes are selling within the first 30 days, but it is about marketing strategy, right? Being transparent, making sure that you're completely transparent with the seller. Like, this is what we expect. This is the price we should price it at, and this is why. Looking at overall active inventory in terms of competition, and we're going to sell your home fast, right? We want to protect your equity. It's your biggest asset. So
The thing I love
let's.
about you, Dana, is like bring it, man. I mean, you are so good at this. Like people do not understand the challenge with the real estate industry is a lot of people think a realtor's a realtor's a realtor, and there's some great realtors in this county, guys. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but I can tell you one. I know because I trained her and I get to be in business with her every day. Dana Hutton can sell a house, and you do it with such poise and professionalism that I think it really brings. When someone gets to work with you, you get to reset the standard of what the expectation is of a great realtor in Wilson County. So I appreciate you for that and the ability that you have to be able to do it with care and candor. That's not simple, right, guys? I mean, being able to sit down with a seller at their kitchen table and tell them with that Southern love, right, that
Right,
you're
all the
overpriced,
love.
right? You're overpriced, and I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your rear and tell you that you can get it just so that I can win your listing. Like that's a real thing. That's a real thing right now going on. And I just think that if I'm a seller, I want to make sure I talk to you. right? I want to
Right.
make sure I talk to a Huffaker Group agent because, I mean, again, there's 30 of us. We have over 20 employees. We have 50 people who are dedicated to helping your home sell quickly. Professional photographers on staff, stagers, people to be able to price it right. It's valuable for us. And you and I still sit down and look at homes together and go, what do you think about this price? Where do you think we need to be priced to make it the most
Yeah.
aggressive win for our sellers? Like being able to have those conversations with each other is a lot different than somebody's niece that got their license last month. And again, we all started somewhere, right? I was somebody's nephew, my first day of real estate. Don't want to take anything away from that. But trusting a trained professional in this market can be the difference between thousands of dollars and you being able to make a move or huge losses and you
Yeah.
ended up in a spot where you didn't want to end up, right?
And I still think as a whole, we ended up making our clients 1.5% more than the average agent out there in 2025 when I pulled the numbers. So, of
Yeah, so I mean,
course,
but you say that like that's a little bit on a $450,000 average sales price, or I mean, in our neighborhoods, these are what 700, 800. I mean, $800,000 home, a percent and a half, 12 grand, right? I mean, that's a carton of eggs these days,
yeah,
right?
right.
Whatever.
They're not that expensive, but
Nah,
it
goodness.
is. I mean, that's building wealth right there, right? Putting it towards, something else, keeping it in the bank account. And so, yeah, I love to provide those stats. I do think there is a true value. Nothing wrong with people that do this part time or on the side, but I always want my clients to know that I do this full time, day in and day out, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Not quite, but some days it feels like it, right?
8. That's about what we got to, right?
That's true.
We'll do this job 25/8. Yeah.
That's true.
We are a full service real estate team. So not to turn this into a full commercial, but I mean, we have an investor division, a commercial division, a property management division, a buying division, a listing division, a wealth building division, a downsizing team. I mean, if it's got a real estate related to it, we are experts, and we
Yeah,
have people on the team. I'm not going to say I'm the expert or Dana's the expert in every situation, but we know how to bring that expert in or to give you the counsel that you need to make a decision. So, guys, we're here for you to
got
make
it.
informed decisions. We're never here to press you into making a decision one way or the other. We just want you to be informed when you do that, make that decision. We make you a smarter consumer so that you have all the data that you can make the decision necessary for you and your people. Dana, anything else I'm missing? What are we looking forward to in the next few weeks? Got spring break coming up. We got the real estate
Spring
markets on
breaks
fire.
coming up. We're seeing what, mid 60s out there today,
Love that.
70s tomorrow. So come on, spring.
Now, if it's any indication of what's going on in the real estate market, guys, we are having our best March ever. I know this is we're right here at the end of February recording this, and so right now, looking and projecting, we have the pleasure to help over 45 families get a new home or get into a home or sell their home, closing in March with another 150 to 200 in the pipeline on the way. And so, guys, the market is moving. If you've been waiting on the sidelines and you're thinking about making a move, call us. We'll give you the information to decide is now the right time, or should we wait a few more months before we make that decision? Guys, I hope you're having a great week. Thanks for tuning in with us. See you guys.
Thank you. This